Well, good morning, my dear students. Welcome back to Sri Guru Independent PU online classes. My dear students, in the last class we have already discussed grammar aspects for the examination point of view, and today we are going to discuss text. In the text, the very first poem we have by William Shakespeare, that is Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. To talk about William Shakespeare is one of the greatest playwrights in the history of English literature. He is not only one playwright but also a poet and a great dramatist, and who wrote 154 sonnets and 37 plays. That's the reason he has been called as England's national poet, and even he is also called as Bard of Avon. That is the reason till date we find a student, one who gets through or one who finishes his graduation in English literature, he cannot get through or he cannot come out or he cannot pass without studying William Shakespeare's works. And more than 100 languages, William Shakespeare's works have been translated. This is a great thing, right? Anyways, my dear students, let us go to Romeo and Juliet. What it is exactly? It is one of the romantic tragedies by William Shakespeare. Let us know the outline summary of this poem. Though for your syllabus, particularly for second year English, there are only two verses, extracts. They have taken two extracts, verses. Romeo's description on Juliet and Juliet's description on Romeo. Though it appears to be very short when we compare to the other poems in our syllabus, but still we'll have to study it, right? However, while Romeo and Juliet, right at the beginning, let us come to the outline summary of Romeo and Juliet. There is a fight between the servants of Montagues and Capulets. Montagues and Capulets. Both were the rival families. Both were the rival families. Though they were very much dignified in all the ways, but still Montagues did not like the Capulets and Capulets did not like the Montagues. Obviously, since they were staunch enemies or feudal families, that is the reason they did not, as they did not like each other, and the servants of Montagues and Capulets families, they fight between each other. Meanwhile, Prince, he intervenes and asks the servants to stop fighting, otherwise you will be given a death sentence as your punishment. That is the reason they stopped it. And after bringing them to a normal situation, Lord Capulet, he wanted to introduce Juliet to Count Paris. Who is this Count Paris? Count Paris, suitor of Juliet. He hosts a Capulet, Lord Capulet hosts a supper. Meanwhile, why he hosts a supper? he wanted to introduce his daughter Juliet to her suitor. Suitor is nothing but a person who is going to be married. I mean, Juliet's suitor is Count Paris. And meanwhile, the Peter, the servant of Montague's family, and Romeo, his friend Benvolio, Romeo's friend, Mercutio, Princess' cousin, all together, including Romeo, Benvolio and Mercutio. So these were the friends of Romeo. They just leave. They wanted to go to attend a grand supper. A grand supper which was hosted by Lord Capulet in order to introduce his daughter to Count Paris, who was supposed to marry Juliet. In this way, as they go there, actually Mr. Romeo, he just did not go on as usual uniform or dress or clothes. He just disguises. I mean, he goes in another way in order to not to identify. I mean, people should not identify the Montagues. Montagues should not identify Romeo and his companions. And his friends. As he goes without, right? As he goes in disguise by changing his appearance, external appearance, he goes there along with his companions. Actually, he was already in love with Rosaline, his previous lover. Romeo's previous lover was Rosaline. He was already in love with Rosaline. He was adored by Rosaline. And he goes there to see his first love, who is none other than Rosaline. But fortunately or unfortunately, he finds there a beautiful girl or a woman who was none other than Juliet, who was winning, winsome, buxom, awesome and attractive. She was, though she appears to be just 13 or 14 years old girl, but she was completely looked like a matured woman. That is the reason, as he was completely attracted by her external beauty, I mean her physical appearance and her divine love. He just fell in love with her. Mr. Romeo fell in love with Juliet. Romeo falls in love with Juliet. As he fell in love with this woman, there is a character called Tybalt, who belonged to Montagues. And he identifies that Romeo belonged to Lord Montagues, and sorry to pronounce this, Tybalt belonged to, yes, Capulets. He belonged to Lord Capulet. Mr. Tybalt belonged to Lord Capulet, and since they were known that Romeo belonged to Montagues, Juliet belonged to Capulets. As they know that Tybalt belonged to the family of Capulets, and he identifies everyone, Romeo and his friends, who are none other than Benvolio and Mercutio. He sends them back. They are sent out of that party. After sending them, Romeo was in love with Juliet secretly. As we say that love at first sight. Love is a blind, deaf and dumb. True love will never die. That is the reason. As he was in love with Juliet, he was lingering nearby the house of Juliet. The very next night, Friar Lawrence, a nurse, Friar Lawrence, Friar Lawrence is a nurse who helps them to meet both Romeo and Juliet at his cell. And both of them, they meet each other and they confessed themselves that they are going to be married. As we come across the meeting between the Romeo and Juliet, sorry for the inconvenience. After this, there is a fight between Tybalt and Mercutio. Both of them, they fight each other. Who fight each other? Tybalt and Mercutio. As they fight each other, Tybalt kills Mercutio. Tybalt kills Mercutio in the fight. Meanwhile, Romeo intervenes. He interferes. He comes there. After seeing that Mercutio was killed by Tybalt, in anger, he kills. Romeo kills Tybalt. After Romeo kills Tybalt, it was a very difficult situation for the king to bear. That is the reason Mr. Romeo was banished from the entire kingdom for committing the murder. As he was banished, it was meanwhile the Prince Montagues and Montagues family could not do anything for that, whereas Capulet was predominant figure over there. Lord Capulet was very much predominant. That is the reason Lord Capulet, Juliet's father, they were supposed to decide to marry off. They were in completely sad mood. Both the Lord Capulet and his wife, they were in sad mood to get married Juliet to Paris. And the announcement came that the Juliet and Count Paris, the marriage between the Juliet and Count Paris. Meanwhile, it was known to Mr. Friar Lawrence. He came to know this. Friar Lawrence came to know this, that Lord Capulet is going to arrange the marriage between the Juliet and Juliet and Count Paris. Count Paris. In order to depart both of them, in order to separate both the people, he just planned. Who planned? Friar Lawrence planned here. What was the plan? He just plans that by giving a sleeping poison, he gives the sleeping poison to Juliet in order to get separated from getting married to Mr. Count Paris. That is the reason. He just planned it, and she consumed the poison. Who consumed? The Juliet consumed the poison. She consumes the poison and she sleeps. Though Friar Lawrence sends the message to Romeo so that he could come and rescue Juliet from this situation, from this bad situation where he is not supposed to be married off with Mr. Count Paris. So he just, as he makes a plan, what happened was, after some time, as he was supposed to get the information that Count Paris is going to be married to Juliet, he came to know that already Juliet is dead. He consumed the poison in Mantua, where he was banished, where he was sent. After consuming, he goes to Verona city. He finds there that the Paris was there, Count Paris was there. He was mourning at the tomb of the Juliet. After seeing Count Paris, who was in sad mood, mourning for the Juliet, he just comes there and kills Paris. Who? Romeo kills. Romeo kills Paris. Romeo kills Paris, Count Paris, and he dies over there. After seeing the situation, Juliet, after happening the situation, after some time, Juliet wakes up and sees there that Romeo already died. Romeo met with a tragic end in his life. That is the reason. She too stabs herself. She too dies. Friar Lawrence comes with the Prince, Lord Capulet and Montagues, the father of Romeo and the father of Capulet. Both the families, both the heads of the families, they came near by the tombs of Juliet and Romeo, where they already met with their accident in the sense, their final journey, they have already reached where they were died, where they have gone to the different world. They just cannot come back. He just reaches there. Both they will reach Montagues, father of Romeo and father of Capulets. And there they realized themselves that they have lost their children. It's because of their true love. And they even decided meanwhile to erect a monument in the name of both the children, in the name of Romeo and Juliet in the Verona city, so that people will remember these true lovers. That's the reason we say that true lovers may die, but their true love will never die. My dear students, you should know this. In what way love story ends? Some love stories will end with comic and tragedies. Some love stories will end with comedy itself. Some love stories will end with tragedy itself. Some love stories will end with lots of irony. That is the reason we can't say that Romeo and Juliet, right here, it was just ended with tragedy itself. It began with love. I mean the true love between Romeo and Juliet. It began a true love between Romeo and Juliet, but it ended with tragedy. That is the reason there is a quote, there is a saying that man proposes. If man proposes, God disposes. That is why, in this way, this is all about how Romeo and Juliet, they were born to be the true lovers, but finally they meet with accident. What kind of accident? The irrelevant accident, where they could not expect their true love. They could not expect their true love within themselves, neither within themselves nor the society, but they made themselves that they were supposed to be the permanent figures in a society. Right, my dear students, this is all about the Romeo and Juliet outline, which was published in the year 1597. And since the Romeo Juliet is a romantic tragedy in the history of English literature, it's been translated into more than 100 languages across the world. That is the reason still it has been a famous. It has been a famous till date. So we just cannot forget it. We just cannot deny it. That why we should study the Romeo and Juliet. What is the necessity for us to study? In order to know the history, in order to know the great people, in order to know the characteristics which had given us a sort of values in the name of true love. That is the reason we'll have to study it. Now let us go to the text. My dear students, hope you have understood it. Now let us study today the Romeo and Juliet. William Shakespeare, 1564 to 1616. This is his lifespan. Before going to study the two extracts from Romeo and Juliet, let us study William Shakespeare's introduction about the author. He is an English poet and playwright, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's preeminent dramatist. Obviously, as I had told you a little while ago, William Shakespeare was not a common person. Though he was not educated, primarily he did not have any PG or UG education. I mean, neither post-graduation nor undergraduation. But how could he write? It's all about he developed his writing skills based on the atmosphere, England's atmosphere as it took birth. Right. Anyhow, he being a great poet of English language, widely regarded as one of the famous writers in the history of English literature, and moreover, he is also called as world's preeminent dramatist. World's preeminent dramatist. He is known as world's preeminent dramatist, who who actually installed, who just did the benchmark in the field of writing, the plays particularly. That is the reason we say that he is the father of English plays, the history of English literature till date. He is often called England's national poet, Bard of Avon. My dear students, he is also called as Bard of Avon. What do you mean by this Bard of Avon? Bard of Avon. Bard of Avon is nothing but, Bard is nothing but a singer, a composer of heroes, of verses. He is a singer, composer of verses on heroic deeds. That is why, and in another sense, Bard is nothing but a poet. The poets who took birth in England, and there is a specific place that is also called as Avon. So Bard is nothing but a poet. So a poet, one who acts here as not only a poet but also a singer, composer, and he embellishes, he just glorifies, he just always shows us the emotions and feelings of the special characteristics through in a figurative language. By using figures of speech in his plays. That's the reason he is called as Bard of Avon. Avon is nothing but name of the place. So he was born in 1564 and died in 1616. And if he did not write any play, if he did not have any contribution towards English literature, most probably the entire English language would have lost the most significant part of the literature so far, till date, or in the today's world. That's the reason still we study William Shakespeare. As we come across in Kannada literature, Kuvempu Kuppali Venkatappa Puttappa, who is also known as the national poet. In the same way, he is also, Mr. William Shakespeare is also called as England's national poet. My dear students, you should know this. He is often called England's national poet and Bard of Avon. His plays have been translated into every major living language. My dear students, his plays have been translated, as I told you, many languages in the sense so far as we come across the different surveys, more than 100 languages. Imagine how it is important than other writers. How Shakespeare's works are having a significant role in upbringing the history and many heroic deeds of the past. That is the reason we study it in the today's world and are performed more often than those of any other playwrights. Right, my dear students, let's go to the Romeo and Juliet's the background. Right, in the preceding activity, he questions us like, have you heard of any legendary classical love stories? What do you mean by legendary? Legendary is nothing but famous. Legendary is nothing but famous. Classical is nothing but traditional. My dear students, you should understand, we come across many legendary stories, many legendary love stories like Napoleon and Josephine, Paris and Helena, Romeo and Juliet, Laila and Majnun, Salim and Anarkali, Odysseus and Penelope. Right? These are all the few famous or legendary love stories in the world where we just have to remember. In the same way, Romeo and Juliet is one among them. Romeo and Juliet is one among them, which gives us the true picture of the true love of Romeo and Juliet. How these two true lovers they made their life again living and effectual. That how lovers died, how they lived and died during their love-making business. This is to be expected from these two extracts of Romeo's description on Juliet and Juliet's description on Romeo. My dear students, in what manner do these stories usually end and why? Obviously, as I told you already, that we just cannot expect that any love story would end in only this fashion or in only this way. We do not expect all the times that it is going to be expected with tragic point of view or comic point of view. It can be ended in any ways. That is why we'll have to study. Until we study, so we'll be curious. Right, my dear students, let us go to background of Romeo and Juliet. The two noble families of Verona. These were two noble families, Montagues and Capulets. These two were the noble families of Verona city, were staunch enemies. Both of them were staunch enemies. Staunch in the sense they were completely enemies, like feudal families. In another sense or in another meaning, we can just express it, or we can just mean it that both of them they did not have any mutual understanding. They did not have any love, or they did not have any humble nature. They did not have reciprocality between both the families. That is the reason, right? Since they were called as feudal families or rival enemies, how can we expect that there is a birth of love between both the families' children? But it has happened. How it did happen? That's the reason we say that love is blind. That is why one of the poets says, love is triumph over imagination. Love is triumph over imagination. Right, my dear students, Romeo and Juliet belong to rival families. Rival in the sense enemy families. Old Lord Capulet hosted a grand supper. He hosts a grand supper in order to introduce Juliet to Count Paris, who was the best suitor according to Lord Capulet, not according to Juliet. My dear students, remember this point. Though Romeo belonged to the family of Montagues, Romeo belonged to the family of Montagues. Who was in the family of Montagues? Romeo belonged to the family of Montagues, whereas Juliet belonged to Capulets. My dear students, he attended the supper in disguise to see Rosaline. Who was this? Who is Rosaline here Rosalind is the first lover of Romeo. Actually, Rosalind never tried to bring Romeo closer. He had never thought of running after always the Romeo, but Romeo always he adored Rosalind. Who adored Rosalind? Yeah, Romeo adored Rosalind. He went there in disguise so that people cannot identify him. People may not recognize him. He attended the supper in disguise to see Rosalind. There he sees Juliet on the dance floor. There he sees Juliet on the dance floor and is fascinated by her beauty. He finds a beautiful, burning, buxom and most attractive girl. Though she was 13 to 14-year-old girl, but she appears to be, or she appeared to be a matured woman. Physically, she was more attractive and is fascinated by her beauty. That's the reason John Keats says that beauty is truth, truth is beauty. Though youth and beauty are temporary phases of life, but here, though they are lived for short span of time, they die very earlier in their life. But here, right, in the same way, this is the same beauty which is truthful always, which is loved and liked by all the people and in all the ages. That is why Romeo, as he gets fascinated when he goes to a grand supper of Lord Capulet's, which was organized by Lord Capulet's. He goes there and gets fascinated by her beauty. After the dance, he learns that she is the daughter of Lord Capulet. He knows that she is the daughter of Lord Capulet, because she was not knowing so far which family he belonged to. Now after seeing him, after watching her dance, he came to know that she was the daughter of Lord Capulet. And even she too came to know that he belonged to the rival family. He was from Montagues, an enemy family or rival family. But how did it happen? She too feels a prodigious birth, enormous birth, remarkable birth. She feels that, yes, this is truly, he has taken birth for the sake of me itself, in order to seek for my true love. The following verses express their implicit feelings for one another. I mean, the true extracts, Romeo's description on Juliet and Juliet's description on Romeo. In what way these two extracts will give us the clear pictures about Romeo and Juliet. We'll continue in the next class. Thank you very much, my dear students. Hope you have gone through today the outline summary of Romeo and Juliet and its background. Well, keep watching Sri Guru Independent Pew online classes and keep subscribing. Thank you.